Hello and welcome back to another episode of Leadership Lenses, the podcast designed for Rosh Yeshiva, heads of school, principals, and anyone and everyone who wants to advance and enhance Jewish education around the world. And I emphasize that around the world part in this episode in particular because we're privileged to have with us today Amihai Bannett, who is the director of Herzog Global, a division of Herzog College here in Israel, whose entire focus is helping and supporting Jewish educators from teachers through heads of school around the world. Amihai, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So before we get in, can you just give us a couple of words of background? How did you get to this job at Herzog, and what is Herzog Global for those who might not have heard of it?
Okay, so as you might realize from my name, so Amihai, I'm Israeli. I grew up here in Israel to American-born parents. And having been a student here at Herzog College 30 years ago, Herzog is a teacher's college. We train teachers. We have thousands of students in Israel, Israelis that are trained to be to Israel. And the global department is our, what I call Yada Arichta, our long arm around the world. We both train teachers and also work on professional development, teachers, heads of schools, and also we work on developing professional content in Tanakh and pedagogy for Jewish schools around the world, currently working with schools in 18 countries around the Jewish world. I taught for about 10 years in Israel, and then as a shaliach in a Jewish day school in Winnipeg, Canada, where it's even colder than Gush Etzion. Then during the shlichut, I finished my master's in educational administration, and they said, "Oh, good, you could be the principal now." So that's maybe a story for another time. And when I got back to Israel, I was quickly drawn into back to the Israel diaspora arena. For 16 years, I ran programs twinning Jewish schools around the world, and also for 10 years of those 16, I was also in charge of Chidon HaTanakh at the Jewish Agency. And then about 3.5 years ago, I came here to Herzog, and I'm enjoying very much working with schools around the world.
Amazing. Okay, so we do have listeners around the world, but I would say the majority of people listening right now are in North America, the United States and Canada, perhaps even someone from Winnipeg. So we'll give a shout out to the full expanse of Canadian Jewish communities. But tell us, for, let's say, heads of school in North America, right? What does Herzog Global have to offer? First, just in terms of perspective, if I'm sitting in North America and I'm struggling and working to run and develop my school, and now I've heard that Herzog Global exists, so why should I care?
So our goal, when we say it in one sentence, is to empower the Jewish educators. So in order to do that, we know that some people were trained and could have been a while ago, and they would require professional development in order to keep up with the latest either trends or chidushim, right, in Jewish and general education. So when we offer a program, we can offer it either to the people that may even weren't trained at all and were brought, especially in small communities, to teach subjects which they either have a great knowledge but don't have training to teach, or the other way around. And I've seen that in Winnipeg, when sometimes also the content and the curriculum might not exist. So we develop that as well. So you've got,
basically, just to focus and frame, one of the areas that a head of school ought to be aware of is that there are teacher training programs that exist where either for professional development, or even, if I understand correctly now, for teachers who might be seeking a master's degree and aren't in a location or in a position where they can do a regular in-person master's, you also offer full master's degrees right now to teachers across the world.
That's right. We have a master's program which we started a couple of years ago in teaching Tanakh and Parshanut, which is mainly online and does include a summer seminar in Israel. And since it's funded here by the Israeli government, so it's Israeli prices and not U.S. prices. But
for those who are not familiar, by the way, that means it's much, much cheaper than a master's degree would be in the U.S. or Canada.
Yeah, and we have people from across North America, also English speakers in Israel that are part of our program. We also have a program in Spanish. It, of course, is in Spanish if you're interested. The programs that we have for individual teachers. So it, like I said, it can include a more basic program, could be more advanced program like the masters. But one of the things which we kind of developed over time is we said, okay, so the individuals will find us if they're interested in different accreditation or certificates or academic degrees, but what do schools need? So when I came to Herzog about 3 years ago, we started with the individual. So that's the programs I described until now. But then we said, okay, so what else does the Jewish education world need? So we partnered with United, which is an arm of the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, together with the Ministry of Education. And after we did the teacher training program, we said, heads of schools, what can we offer them? And then we actually developed, and full disclosure, Barry, you were part of the program. We called it the Herzog United Fellows about 2 years ago. We a little bit more than 2 years ago, we launched it, and we had a year-long program, which included also a seminar in Israel. It's in the oven, as they say. The second cohort hopefully is gonna launch soon. Might be a little bit different, but it's for heads of schools from all around the Jewish world. And it was interesting to see how people from whether it's Mexico or Australia or Switzerland, when they meet each other and they talk about their challenges, they realize that learning from peers, it doesn't have to be only face to face when you go to the Prisma or other North American conferences, but you could really learn from people all around the world, and especially the ones in small communities when they can feel lonely. And I felt that a little bit in Winnipeg, when there was
Right.
really no peers to learn from, and that's why these programs are very important.
Right. And I'll say, as you mentioned, I was a mentor in that program. I coach a lot of heads of school, a lot of principals in my own practice. And in this program, I was coaching one head of school from Canada, one from a small Jewish community in New York. I think it was called Brooklyn. You might have heard of it. And one from Switzerland, right? So Switzerland was indeed a small, fairly isolated community. New York, the center of the American Jewish world, population and school numbers wise. And in Canada as well, from Toronto, a sizable Jewish community. What I found as a mentor, and this was a little bit different than the coaching I do one-on-one, because we were mentoring a group of 3 people together, was how much each of those heads gained from seeing the other's context. And even the head that was there from New York, who said, yeah, he has lots of other people he can speak to that are local, but seeing how Jewish education changes in different countries around the world gave him a little bit of a new perspective. And I was surprised at how much they dove in and enjoyed and didn't want to miss a single one of our mentoring sessions, because they felt that this was giving them a slightly broader perspective. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? If I'm a head of school sitting in North America, what might I learn or start to appreciate when I connect with schools around the world that might be refreshing, re-energizing, or even challenging?
So I'll give you an example, which is unfortunately related to what's happening in Israel the past couple of years, and it's of course happening all around the Jewish world. The program, when we wanted to launch it, we scheduled the initial Zoom to meet everybody. We invited the college president and people from the government and everybody to come and welcome everybody to the program. And we scheduled for the first week right after the Chagim, as everything is Israel starts 2 years ago. And then October 7th happened, and we reconvened on October 8th on Sunday at the Zoom, actually, not at the office even, here at Herzog. And we said, okay, so do we change anything? What do we need? What are we going to do? First things first, we said we need, and I'm going on a tangent for a second. We said, okay, the teachers are going to walk into the classroom tomorrow morning on October 9th. What can we give them? We need to give them something which will empower them. Many of these teachers have never dealt with a situation like this, something so dramatic happening. So the first thing is we had one of the lecturers here at Herzog, who's an educational psychologist, record a short instructive video, what to say, what to talk, what to listen to when the students walk into the classroom the next day. And the second thing which we did was Herzog College is probably mostly famous for our Tanakh learning and teaching approach, based here at Yeshivat Har Etzion in Alon Shvut. And we said, some of the teachers, they're going to say, I don't want to start talking. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a teacher. Give me something in Tanakh to teach which is relevant. So what we did is we took a lesson plan. We made a lesson plan for the story of David and Tziklag when their families were actually kidnapped. And when they came back from war, what did they do? They first sat and they cried, and then they devised a plan and they carried it out to show people how we can perhaps grow from a difficult situation. So when we opened the program for the heads of schools, we very quickly realized that the program, first of all, started with just understanding and listening and hearing what the different challenges are, and anti-Semitism and other things that broke out in different places around the world. And some schools have non-Jewish staff. Some schools even had non-Jewish students in their school community, and the heads of schools were able to ask, and in a safe environment talk and hear for what other people had to say. Just last week, I was at a conference for what they call combating anti-Semitism. So, I'm not an expert on that, but all the people that are from around the world were in that conference, and they went and they listened. And I realized there's three different ways perhaps to combat or to deal with anti-Semitism, which most of whom I can't really help with, right? If you want to have security, right? What kind of locks or what kind of guards and security?
Right. That is not our focus at Herzog College.
Exactly. There's people that know that. Even the second approach, which is what they call in some places public diplomacy or hasbara, there's people that are experts on that. That's not my expertise. But I think the third way, which is where we can strengthen ourselves and certainly our students as well, is when we strengthen and we talk about our Jewish identity. And when we talk about our Jewish identity, and when somebody knows where he's coming from, knows who he is or she is, and they are dealt with something that's anti-Jewish, then they're standing on a more firm place when they want to deal with it. So
absolutely. So that's huge, and there was a lot of those resources, and I remember actually being there, and it's hard to even recall kind of the level of crisis and sadness and tension that we were in about 2.5 years ago, and thank God we're in a somewhat different place today, though still with many, many challenges. If we come back to that fellowship of you brought the heads of school back together. I think for a lot of heads of school, the question might be, so why should I care? In other words, I'm running a school in New York or in Chicago or in Los Angeles. Let me focus on my city. What does Herzog Global have to offer me? And more broadly as an idea, what does this connection with global heads or with the state of Israel have to offer me? Shouldn't I really be focused on my local challenges and needs here?
When we talk about the Jewish nation, the Jewish people, there's obviously a lot of things which are different in different local communities where, and each school has their own ideology. And obviously Herzog has an ideology as well, but it's not our job to indoctrinate our ideology. It's our job to give people, my colleague Reuven Spolter likes to call it a muscle. It's like a muscle that we need to train. We need to have, when a head of school or an educator wants to prepare, whether it's a curriculum or even a lesson plan for tomorrow morning, they need to think about the meaning. I mentioned before Jewish identity, but it's related to really anything that we teach, anything and everything that we teach. We have to think about the meaning making of these things. So when we developed, for example, a curriculum called Tanakh is Our Story, and that curriculum developed here by the Tanakh department. So we started with the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, right, of the Exodus from Egypt. Thank God we're not enslaved in Egypt or in any other place at the moment. So why is it relevant for me, the student in 8th grade or in 6th grade or whatever it is, whether it's in Australia, in Canada, or in Israel? So when we talk about the story, so first of all, you have to realize that it's the story, and to realize not only the details of reading every word and every verse, but also understanding the larger concept of what's happening, but also our story. How is it relevant to me? So it could be relevant to your students in a secular school in Toronto in one way, and it could be relevant to your students in an Orthodox school in Los Angeles in another way. But when we talk about content and relevance, and my colleague Sarah Golubchik titled it core, the core of the lesson, the content and the relevance, when we train the teachers to think about it when they prepare their lessons, so it's relevant in a different way in each place, but it's the same framework.
And I think that one piece for all of our listeners to be aware of, again, is that there is this methodology being developed, and you mentioned Ruvain Spolter, you mentioned Sarah Golubchik. Herzog, as it appears, and Herzog Global in particular, has been on a path of trying to collect uh, effective, excellent, outstanding Jewish educators with backgrounds outside of Israel who have since made Aliyah, come to Israel, and try and then marshal them as resources going out to the Jewish world. And one of the things that I say honestly, as head of school, I was at first skeptical, and eventually came to sort of see the value in, is the fact that Israel as a state, right, the government is investing in this. So on the one hand, we might say, okay, well, what do you know sitting in Israel that's relevant to me sitting in the US, Canada, or Switzerland, or wherever else I am? On the other hand, the world is global in a way that it was not. People are mobile in a way that we weren't necessarily, 20 or 25 years ago. It sounds like your ability to connect here has been based on finding people from relevant backgrounds to all of these areas, and then leveraging the support of the Israeli government to be able to provide things like your master's degree or your professional development or your head of school fellowship, which hopefully, again, there'll be another cohort coming in the near future, we hope. All of that in a way that is much more accessible and affordable for Jewish day schools around the world, because you have that Israeli government support combined with all these various experts that you've brought together.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and it's really heartwarming, And I said before, I'm an Israeli, and most Israelis, if you mention to them that the Israeli government supports the Jewish communities around the world, they'd be surprised, to say the least. But I think the government and the Jewish organizations also as well. I mentioned the Jewish agency that I worked for before. I think they turned the corner and they realized that much before. When the Israeli state or even pre-state was established, there were 0.5%, 10% of the Jewish people living in Israel. Today, there's 46% of the Jewish people living in Israel, but we certainly are partnering with the 54% living all around the world to have these things. And we utilize both people that have experience having taught in classrooms in North America or other places around the world, in South America as well. But we also use the knowledge, and great knowledge. We're not going to have fake modesty, but we have really on this hill here a lot of great educational leaders and scholars, both on the content level, Tanakh, but many other content places as well, but also people that are experts in pedagogy. How do people study? What kind of learning is right for the students today? So we actually have my colleague Limor Riskin, together with our friends and colleagues at United, developed this whole, it's actually a mini website which showcases teaching practices. People like to call it innovative pedagogy. So, Chavruta is not innovative in the way that it certainly was
Sure.
invented, not by Herzog College and not recently, but the ways that the world today, and we can't keep static, right? You always have to be up to date, whether it's the AI and other things that are out there
Sure.
for us to use. So we have all of our experts working in a way which fits the communities. So we have the North American or the English-speaking crowd working on the English-speaking crowd, and then we have my colleague Shmuel Kornblit, who's really a superstar in Latin American education, and working with us for the past several years on bringing that to schools all across the spectrum, also in South America as well.
Great. So you just mentioned a website. I want to highlight this before we go on. If people want to access these resources, where is this located?
So you can find everything on our Herzog Global website, global.herzog.ac.il, and there'll be links there both to everything, to the professional development, to the curriculum like Tanakh is our story, to the teaching practices website, also to a new initiative which we started recently. I described how we started with individuals. If you're an individual and you want individual accreditation or to develop professionally, then people would come to Herzog Global and Herzog College. But after a few months, we realized that we want to work not only with the individuals but also with schools as a cohort, as a group of teachers. So we started by offering our courses customized to specific schools according to what they need, not only the content, but also the scheduling. When we have online learning, then we have people here in the digital learning department, which actually surprised me when I first came to Herzog. Before, I've studied online, Zoom, and a lot of other things. But when I met our techno pedagogic experts who really understand pedagogy, how people learn, and understand the educational technology and the different technologies that are available there, and the courses that we make at Herzog, are asynchronous, meaning you could do it on your own time. You don't have to come, dafka on Tuesday at 2 o'clock.
Sure.
But it also imitates a classroom. It takes the knowledge and the charisma of the instructor and puts it on the learning management system, and also connects you with your peers.
If I'm a principal or head of school, what you're saying essentially is, because this is a little bit different, right? We've talked about PD, we've talked about masters, but you're saying I'm the head of a school. I'd like to do something with my teachers. I can approach you at Herzog Global, and you will craft some sort of program customized for me, for my teachers, in a way that works on what we want to work on in our school right now.
Exactly. So we could use a way which will be connected to a specific content, specific subject, but we could also decide that we want to enhance, for example, pedagogy. We have right now, for example, a program where the Jewish community in Amsterdam approached us and told us, we have a shortage of teachers. We have people that are teaching in the schools that some of them have a lot of training, but not all of them is relevant for the subjects that they are teaching. And they actually got together all 4 schools from all across the board of the community there, and they actually said it's the first time in 50 years or maybe forever that all schools came and joined one program. And we, together with them, we hired a local coach that comes, that speaks the language, obviously, that comes and works with the teachers. But we also have a lecturer from Herzog College who actually was born in Amsterdam, so also speaks the language, and uses that same asynchronous lesson that he built for the students in Albany, New York, and in South Africa. And once the lesson is ready, cost-wise, to run it the second and the third and the fourth time is much more affordable. So when the Israeli government, on the one hand, pitches in, and when we use this technology that enables us to run a program more than once, then it's also very affordable. So the Amsterdam model, which combines both content, meaning courses, what we call teaching, and coaching, is what we developed into something that we call the Herzog Learning Labs. So the Herzog Learning Labs is a project that we are doing now in partnership with both United and also the Pincus Fund for Jewish Education, currently in 6 schools, mostly in Europe and South America, South Africa, coming soon to North America. And this way, enhancing or developing the pedagogy of the schools, whether it's general or in specific subjects, I think that's something that's really needed. We could see that it's needed in different places around the world.
Amazing. So I want to try and wrap this up, because I think there's a tremendous amount here. If you're a head of school principal, you haven't heard about this, then the best place to learn is global.herzog, herzog.ac.il. That's global.herzog.ac.il. We'll have that in our show notes. If anybody didn't catch that, if you're driving, you don't need to stop and write it down right now. And we'll also have Amihai's personal email as well, which is a little bit longer than that. And so you'll be able to contact. But what we're talking about here is, number 1, potential fellowships in PD for you as a head of school. Number 2, PD for your teachers on an individual basis. Number 3, master's degree options for your teachers on an individual basis. And number 4, potentialized customized PD/degrees that can be built on a bespoke basis for your school. And in all of that, really what we're saying is the government of Israel is your partner. So Herzog is able to provide this. You're obviously a non-for-profit. You're not looking to use this as a business model. You're looking to use this as a service model for Jewish schools globally. I know that tens of schools have already used you, but I'm sure that there are many on the podcast listening right now we've either not heard of Herzog Global at all, or who haven't heard of one of this really variety of new and always evolving programs, it sounds like, which really can be, I think, adds some real value to our school, to particularly our Judaics faculty, our Tanakh faculty, and us as school leaders in a way that is effective and affordable, which is always the magic formula that we're looking for. So, Amihai, I want to thank you for being with us. You're obviously needed around the world, so it's really a pleasure and an honor that you spent the time with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We try and get also physically to different places around the world, and we try to do that not only to meet people, but also to visit the schools and understand what the specific school needs are. As wise as the people that we have here are, we still need to have this connection, this two-way connection with the Jewish world. So please, if you have an idea of something that you think that we can do together, or we can convince the Israeli government to do for the Jewish world, and please reach out to us. And I'm looking forward to being in touch. We have actually one of the new programs here at Herzog, and the Israeli Herzog, is that a lot of the Haredi world who wants the academic degrees is coming to us. So we have the trust of communities from, I think, really all across the spectrum, and we're looking forward to doing that around the world as well.
Amazing. So please, as we always say, think about this. There's less for you to try out directly, but there's a lot for you to think about in terms of what can add value to your school. Think about what training you, your teachers, or your departments might benefit from. Check out the website global.herzog.ac.il. Contact Amihai. And as always, I'd love to hear from you as well. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if any of this sounds useful or if you have particular thoughts or approaches to it. And you can reach me, as always, LinkedIn, Barry Kislowitz, Leadership Lenses on Substack, or at our website, kislowitzconsulting.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day leading.